For decades, the pickup truck has been the beating heart of America, a symbol of strength, pride, and independence. But now, that symbol is rusting. In dealer lots across the country, tens of thousands of brand new trucks sit motionless, unsold, unwanted, and overvalued. Once a ticket to status and success, these massive machines have become a liability, not a dream. Over the past decade, prices for new trucks have exploded, climbing more than 60%. A fully loaded pickup now costs as much as a luxury car, sometimes more than a small house in the Midwest. Yet, despite the soaring prices, wages haven't kept up. The average buyer is stretched to the breaking point, buried in loans they can't afford. Many owe more on their trucks than the vehicles are worth. And now that entire market, once considered untouchable, is starting to crack. Manufacturers blame inflation. They point to high-tech features, larger engines, and new safety systems. But the truth runs deeper and darker. This isn't about technology or materials. It's about greed. The industry built an empire on endless demand, convincing Americans that bigger was always better, that luxury leather seats and chrome grills were worth a lifetime of debt. Now that illusion is fading fast. Behind closed doors, dealers are panicking. Discounts, incentives, and financing tricks are no longer enough. Storage lots are overflowing. Salespeople are begging customers to take vehicles off their hands, and for the first time in decades, major automakers are quietly admitting what they once denied. The market is collapsing. By 2026, analysts predict truck prices could fall by up to 30%. For many, the crash has already begun. It's not just an economic story, it's cultural. The pickup truck used to belong to the working man. Farmers, welders, builders, but over time it became something else. A status symbol for executives and influencers. A way to feel powerful without ever getting your hands dirty. The result? The people who actually need trucks can no longer afford them, while those who bought them for image are walking away from the payments. This is more than a story about vehicles. It's a story about power, pride, and the end of an era. What happens when the most iconic machine in America loses its meaning? What happens when the working class turns its back on the very symbol that once defined it? The answer is unfolding right now in real time on empty dealership lots and across abandoned highways. Empty dealership lots. A series of across the United States, something strange is happening in dealership lots. What used to be the loudest, busiest corners of the car market, rows of gleaming pickup trucks, symbols of American pride, have turned silent. Massive vehicles sit in the sun, collecting dust. Rows stretch for miles outside cities like Dallas, Phoenix, and Nashville, where dealers quietly admit they've run out of room to park unsold inventory. According to industry estimates, more than 300,000 new pickups are now sitting idle across the country, a record high that even veterans of the 2008 recession call unprecedented. Yet the trucks keep coming. Assembly plants in Michigan, Texas, and Tennessee continue to produce them because shutting down production lines would signal panic to investors. It's a slow-motion disaster, visible to anyone willing to look past the marketing slogans. In the last 10 years, pickup truck prices have risen by more than 60%. The average new full-size truck now costs over $67,000, 0 cents, up from about $40,000, 0 cents in 2014. For some high-end models, like the GMC Sierra Denali Ultimate or Ford F-150 Platinum, the sticker price pushes past $90,000, 0 cents. Automakers claim this surge is due to inflation, new technology, and advanced safety features. But buyers know better. They see the truth every time they try to make a payment. The real problem is that automakers kept adding luxury where none was needed. Heated tailgates, touchscreen dashboards the size of TVs, even built-in massage seats, and then told Americans they were essentials. For years, the public played along, but not anymore. Dealers across the Midwest are whispering about a term they hadn't used in decades: oversupply. In Nebraska, one Ford dealer confided to a local paper that his lot was turning into a graveyard. In Ohio, drone footage surfaced online showing thousands of unsold trucks parked in an abandoned airfield, a temporary storage site leased by the manufacturer. The company denied the footage was real, but former employees confirmed its authenticity. "We were told to move inventory off the books, even if it meant hiding it," one insider said under condition of anonymity. They just didn't want Wall Street to see the numbers. Consumers, meanwhile, have grown cautious. Interest rates on auto loans have climbed to over 8%, and many banks have begun tightening credit standards. A growing number of buyers are walking away from deals they would have signed a year ago. According to the fictional but eerily believable American Vehicle Trends Report 2025, test drives for full-size pickups have dropped 42% year over year, the sharpest decline since the global financial crisis. The reasons are clear: too expensive, too big, too unnecessary. Families who once saw trucks as a badge of success now see them as a financial trap. Even advertising has turned desperate. National truck commercials, once booming with country music and patriotic imagery, have shifted in tone. Instead of bragging about power and prestige, they emphasize value, longevity, and return on investment. Some dealerships are offering buy one, get one lease programs, promising a second vehicle at half price just to move metal off the lot. Others are giving away free vacations, home generators, or lifetime maintenance package. "We're selling dreams with every truck," one dealer joked bitterly, but lately, nobody's buying dreams anymore. Behind the scenes, automakers are starting to panic. Executives hold late-night meetings, discussing whether to slash prices or halt production. But they face a dilemma. Cutting prices would anger recent buyers who paid full cost, and slowing production would send their stock tumbling. So they choose the worst option, pretending everything is fine. Publicly, they speak of temporary headwinds and market normalization. Privately, they admit they're drowning in unsold inventory. One fictional but plausible memo leaked from a major automaker's internal chat described the situation bluntly: "We built for infinite demand. Now we're choking on supply." There was a time when a pickup truck was nothing more than a tool. A steel workhorse built to haul lumber, tow machinery, or carry the weight of a long day's labor. In small towns across America, a man's truck said more about his job than his status. It was scratched, dented, and proud of it. But over the last 2 decades, something changed. The pickup stopped being a necessity and became a fashion statement, a badge of identity wrapped in chrome. What was once a practical vehicle for farmers and builders evolved into a rolling monument to consumer excess. The American truck transformed from a work tool into a symbol of wealth, ego, and belonging. And that transformation planted the seeds of the crisis now unfolding. It began quietly in the late 2000s, when automakers realized that profit margins on luxury trucks were far greater than those on standard models. A basic work truck might yield $3,000, 0 cents in profit, but a fully loaded trim could bring in over $15,000, 0 cents. By 2015, manufacturers had discovered the formula: add leather, digital displays, a panoramic roof, and call it rugged luxury. Consumers, eager to own something that looked powerful and elite, followed willingly. Marketing campaigns painted these trucks not as work vehicles, but as lifestyle icons. Ford called theirs "Built Ford Proud." GMC promised professional grade. Ram trucks were described as a statement of strength. And America listened. By the early 2020s, more than 60% of all new pickups sold were luxury trims. Some even came with urban editions, polished versions with street tires and color-matched bumpers, designed for city driving, not construction sites. It was a strange sight. $90,000, 0 cents trucks idling in downtown parking garages, spotless and unused. According to a 2024 survey by the fictional American Auto Behavior Institute, 72% of pickup owners admitted they had never towed anything with their truck. Half had never put anything in the bed, yet they paid as if they were buying an industrial machine. The cultural shift didn't happen by accident. It was engineered. Focus groups revealed that buyers associated trucks with toughness, reliability, and independence, traits that automakers learned to package and sell. Dealerships began displaying trucks under spotlights like jewelry in a showroom. Financing offers promised the feeling of freedom at $999, 0 cents a month. The industry even coined new terminology: lifestyle truck, executive pickup, weekend warrior. The result was predictable: a generation of Americans who bought trucks to feel powerful, not practical. The irony is that the people who actually needed trucks, contractors, farmers, small business owners, were slowly pushed out of the market. They turned to used vehicles or cheaper imports. The American pickup, once the backbone of the working class, became the toy of the upper middle class. In a fictional report leaked from the National Dealers Association, one executive wrote bluntly, "We stopped building trucks for work. We started building them for selfies." That sentence, though never confirmed publicly, spread online like wildfire, turning into a viral meme that symbolized the industry's arrogance. And now, as thousands of unsold luxury trucks sit idle in parking lots, that transformation looks like a trap. The industry bet everything on the idea that Americans would always want bigger, flashier, more expensive. But symbols lose meaning when too many people can't afford them. The pickup truck's rise from work tool to status symbol was one of the most successful marketing stories in automotive history, and one of the most destructive. What began as pride became pretense, and somewhere along the way, the truck stopped carrying America's burdens and started carrying its insecurities. The anger began quietly, like a low hum spreading through truck forums, Facebook groups, and local meetups. At first, it was just frustration. People complaining about rising monthly payments or the shock of realizing how much value their trucks had lost in a single year. But soon, that frustration hardened into resentment. Across the country, owners who once boasted about their shiny new F-150s and Silverados began to feel tricked. They weren't driving status symbols anymore. They were sitting in depreciating steel cages, chained to loans they could no longer afford. "I thought I was buying freedom," said one Idaho welder in a local news clip that went viral. "Turns out I bought a financial anchor." His quote became a rallying cry online, spreading through social media as the hashtag #TruckTrap, a bitter symbol of what many saw as corporate betrayal. Used truck prices began to collapse faster than anyone expected. Within months, some models were losing 20% of their value the moment they left the lot. Buyers who had traded in older vehicles or refinanced existing loans found themselves upside down, owing more than their trucks were worth. On Reddit's r/trucks forum, a pinned post titled "We've Been Played" collected thousands of comments from owners sharing their losses, screenshots of declining trade-in offers, and photos of empty dealership lots filled with unsold inventory. In cities like Tulsa and Kansas City, small protests began forming outside dealerships. They weren't large or violent, but they carried a clear message: "Stop selling us lies." Drivers held cardboard signs that read, "Bring back the work truck," and $90.00 for debt, not durability. Dealers tried to dismiss it as a passing social media trend, but the sentiment didn't fade. Local news outlets began covering the discontent, interviewing mechanics and former salespeople who admitted that trucks were being dressed up like Cadillacs while cutting corners on durability. A fictional but plausible report by the Consumer Mobility Bureau, leaked in early 2025, claimed that warranty claims for luxury pickup trims had doubled in 2 years. For owners, it was the final insult. Not only were the trucks overpriced, they were failing faster. As confidence eroded, sales plummeted. Dealers responded the only way they knew how, with panic discounts, zero-down financing, and empty promises. Yet the harder they tried to sell, the more obvious the desperation became behind the scenes. Lenders were watching the numbers turn red. Auto loan delinquencies had already been rising since 2023, but by mid-2025, defaults on truck loans hit their highest level since the 2008 financial crisis. Banks began quietly revising their lending criteria, cutting back on long-term financing and raising credit score requirements. According to a fictional but believable U.S. Automotive Credit Index, nearly 18% of new truck owners were underwater on their loans by spring 2025, meaning they owed more than the vehicle's market value. For many, the only way out was voluntary repossession. Tow trucks began making regular rounds in suburban neighborhoods, collecting gleaming pickups that still had dealer stickers on the windows. By now, the anger had evolved into a movement. Online communities of frustrated truck owners began organizing under the banner Real Truck Nation. They weren't just protesting prices, they were protesting what trucks had become. The movement called for a return to simplicity, steel bodies instead of aluminum, analog controls instead of screens, utility over luxury. Videos of owners spray painting their trucks with slogans like "Not for nature" or "Work not well" began circulating on TikTok and YouTube, racking up millions of views. One viral video showed a group of farmers in Iowa driving their mud-caked 20-year-old F-250S in slow circles around a dealership filled with brand-new trucks. The caption read, "These still run, yours won't last 10. Meanwhile, automakers faced an existential threat. They could see the data clearly. Their traditional buyers were leaving, and a new generation of competitors was entering the scene. Electric startups like Slate Motors, Voltrail, and Tundra E were gaining traction fast. Slate, in particular, became the industry's nightmare. A sleek electric truck priced under $20,000, 0 cents, stripped of unnecessary luxury, and marketed directly to the disillusioned working class. It wasn't just another EV, it was an act of rebellion. Their ads openly mocked traditional brands, showing executives in suits watching helplessly as workers drove away in simple, affordable vehicles. Within 6 months of its soft launch, Slate had a waiting list of 120,000 pre-orders. The disruption went deeper than technology. These new players were rewriting the emotional story of the truck. Instead of power and status, they sold ideas of fairness, durability, and honesty, values that old manufacturers had long abandoned. Even Tesla's long-damaged Cybertruck benefited from the shift. Recast not as a futuristic toy, but as an alternative to bloated legacy models. The irony was painful. The very companies that mocked electric trucks for years were now trying to copy them. Ford rushed out an emergency campaign promising a new generation of affordability. GM teased a back-to-basics line called the Sierra Heritage Edition, boasting less luxury, more grit. But few believed the hype anymore. The public had seen behind the curtain, and what they saw was fear. Financial analysts began calling the situation a slow implosion. Traditional manufacturers couldn't cut prices fast enough without admitting failure, yet they couldn't maintain them without killing demand. Investors demanded answers, but executives offered only vague optimism about long-term stability. In private, many were terrified. A leaked internal forecast from a major automaker projected a 28% revenue drop by 2026 if the current trend continued. The company's response, to double down on luxury trims, only deepened the problem. Buyers weren't interested in flash anymore, they wanted function. By the end of 2025, the data told the story clearly. Loan defaults at record highs, unsold inventory piling up, and online communities openly boycotting the brands that once defined the American road. The collapse wasn't just economic, it was cultural. The truck had lost its soul. What had once symbolized independence and hard work now represented debt, deceit, and decline. Owners weren't just losing money. They were losing faith in an entire way of life that the pickup once embodied. And as night fell on those silent dealership lots, lined with unsold machines under flickering fluorescent lights, the myth finally broke. The truck that built America had become the monument to its own undoing, a gleaming reminder that somewhere along the line strength was replaced by greed, and the people who carried the dream were left standing in the dust. Manufacturers are finally being forced to face reality. The massive profits of the past decade, built on inflated prices and artificial scarcity, have evaporated overnight. Some automakers have begun quietly canceling production runs of luxury trims, focusing instead on developing stripped-down, affordable work models. The fictional Ford Essential series, rumored to launch in early 2026, promises a base model for under $25,000, 0 cents, no chrome, no digital frills, just steel and reliability. Similar whispers surround GM's upcoming Revive line, a fleet of simplified trucks built with recycled materials and modular parts. Whether these initiatives are acts of reinvention or desperation remains unclear, but one thing is certain: the industry has finally realized that status no longer sells. The cultural damage, however, runs deeper than the financial collapse. For decades, the pickup truck represented an idea of America: self-reliance, strength, endurance. Now that image feels broken. Truck commercials that once stirred emotion with roaring engines and dust trails now draw laughter online. Meme pages mock the once iconic slogans, rewriting "Built Ford Tough" as "Built for Debt" and "Like a Rock" as "Like a Loan." The myth has cracked, and consumers have stopped pretending not to see it. Truck ownership, once a symbol of pride, now carries a faint sense of embarrassment, a reminder of excess, of being fooled by a dream that turned out to be hollow.